ABC Minneapolis. Christine, it is really great talking to you today. I've watched 4 of the 6 episodes and I'm just loving season 2 so far. So thank you for the time today.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Yeah, now take me back to creating the costume design for season 1. Did you feel like you had to kind of stick with what was already in place for the Loki character, or was there freedom for you to kind of start a new color palette, some new fabrics, and then did that change at all for season 2?
Listen, I definitely did a little bit of research on the Loki character in the Thor movies, absolutely, for silhouette, for things uh that repeating patterns and palettes and all of that. But then we really were set free and allowed because we were entering into this new world, and it was a world that we were creating. Kasra and the DP and the director, we were all kind of creating on our own based on the pages in the script, which I think Michael Waldron did, really give us a sort of launching pad in terms of a language, a visual language with the Mad Men meets Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Yes, we really did get to dig into that first season with bringing forward as much of our own imagination and collaboration as possible.
Yeah.
But I did want to stay true to some of those things that you see that are threads in the Loki character, like the black and the gold and the thing. But obviously, he's held captive, so you see
Yeah.
it in the variants. But then to go from season 1 to season 2, it is really hard to not want to up your game a lot. It's really the second season I've ever done as a designer, and I had to explore what was right for the job, and what was right for this story was to try to tell a continuous story, because um, I think it would have been very jolting to not have it feel very uh, continuous and very that we're just picking up off of season 1, and to
Mhm.
not try to reinvent the wheel too much.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I love about Loki as a series is that it's just made with real practical set pieces. It's a very tangible world. How does that affect your work as a costume designer versus maybe other Marvel series or movies that are very CGI driven?
I'm really enjoying that this season. So many people have asked me that question about the temporal core suit, and a lot of people didn't realize that it is all practical. I think you're absolutely right that there is this charm to this series, because we really, as artisans in production design, props, and everything, we try to do as much in camera as possible. And it fits the theme of the show, the analog theme of the show, anyways. But there's a lot of, um, the temporal core suit is really, even the tube while you're inside is an actual tube that we R&D and try to figure out how to make.
Yeah.
And I think it does. I think it pays off. I think that the energy of that really pays off in the show. And yeah,
Well,
I'm impressed that people picked up on it, really.
yeah, oh, absolutely. I think you just feel more invested in the show, the show, or even some of the movies that you feel like you were there, whether it's here or like in Wakanda, like you just feel more invested. When you first got into the first season, did you pitch yourself to Marvel or did they come calling to you?
Definitely pitched myself for it. I mean, I was asked to, luckily, have an interview, but I prepared long and hard for that interview. And I think a really fun fact from that process is that after I got the job, and Kate, the production designer, we had all had very similar references.
Yeah.
So it was meant to be. And I think that really shows in the show, because I think there's a cohesiveness to the departments, that uh, there's just a very common language within the departments. And I think it shows.
Yeah, I love that collaboration. I'm curious, how does Marvel keep all its secrets? Because I have no idea how this series season is going to end. I'm fascinated that they're able to keep so much hidden.
Um, that's even a secret to me.
I love it. Christina, I got the wrap. Thank you for this. I also love your costume design in Bridesmaids. We got, the Fritz
Ah,
Bernays is like classic. So thank you for that too.
yes, of course.
Yeah, have a good day. Paul McGuire Grimes, ABC, Minneapolis. Kasra, it is really great talking to you today. I've watched the first four of the six episodes and I'm just loving season two. So thank you for the time today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, now you worked on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and Black Panther. And Guardians is a very CGI heavy world where Black Panther and Loki, what I love is that they seem very grounded in real, tangible, practical sets, which I love. How do you and others at Marvel decide when to build an actual set versus relying on CGI? And then does that affect your overall concept design concept?
It absolutely has an impact on what the design ends up being. And I can't speak about the decision making on Guardians and Black Panther. On those projects, I was a concept artist.
Mm,
So while I was contributing to the design, those types of decisions about what's a set and what's set extension or CGI are made by the art directors and the production designer and the VFX soup and those folk, and of course the directors. So my contribution on that was more conceptual. But in terms of Loki, I can say that like I think the general rule about building out a sets are expensive and they take a long time to build. Um, is that it's about what we call page count. How many pages of the script take place in a setting? If you're going to spend a lot of time in an environment, then it makes good sense to build it and to make it beautiful and to really flesh it out because you're gonna really get to see it and take advantage of that. Whereas if you're only in some place for a short time, well, then it makes more sense to build less and rely on CGI. So and also the other thing that contributes to this is the feasibility of building it. If something takes place in space, well, yeah, you can't build space. So you're gonna have to rely on the CGI. So yeah.
that is such a fascinating answer, and I would never have thought of it in terms of like how much time are you actually spending on the set piece itself. And with Loki, it makes so much sense because you're always within, well, not always, but you're in the TVA offices quite a bit. I think it's great. Now, on top of production design this season, you're also directing episode three. What led you to directing, and are there similarities between the two jobs at all?
Yeah, I've directed for a while on and off. It's something I've always wanted to do, and it just worked out because of this great kind of synergy between the art department and the writing and producing teams on season one. So they invited me into this writers' room on season two, and so from that point, I was sort of deeply embedded in it, and it made sense. And they kindly asked me to direct one of them. In terms of if there's overlap, there's absolute overlap in that film and television are visual mediums, and what you're doing as a designer, what I think that you're really doing as a designer is you're making images. You're making the environment in which images can be made.
Right.
And so you're telling the story and you're trying to get the environment to evoke the emotion and the narrative needs of each scene. And that is a pretty important part of the directing job as well. So for me, the big difference this time was that the big difference is that you get to choose when you're directing, you get to choose where the camera goes.
Right.
And when I'm designing, I try to suggest where the camera goes, and I have to say I'm pretty successful a lot of the time. And through the formalism of the environments I create, that there ends up being certain points of view that just feel natural.
Right.
I think, in my opinion. So, but in directing, I get to just for sure guarantee that the camera's going where I wanted it to go.
I built this set so the camera can be here and look right up and straight at this image.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious. Yeah. How has Marvel changed since you started working for them?
I worked for Marvel for a long time on and off, and they've gone through a lot of different changes. They've gone through so many different stories and characters, and they all have different needs and different requirements. And I'm very excited for the moment that we're in now. And specifically as a production designer, I'm really excited for this that we're right now we're in a moment where we're really embracing practical sets and the kind of more tactile approach to creating images. I love that.
as a Marvel fan, I'm speaking as a fan now, like the movies and the TV series that I love, whether it's Loki, Black Panther, are the tangible ones. I feel like I'm in Wakanda because of how it looks. And I felt like I was on the Loki set because I could feel it and just like see the TV. And that means there's more to me as a viewer and as a lover of Marvel than thinking, oh, that's just a CGI backdrop, which is nothing about that. But, you know,
Sure. No,
yeah.
no. It's good to know. Good to hear. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I got the wrap. Thank you for the time today. Loving season 2, Kasra. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Take care. You're welcome.